All's Fair opens with Liberty Ronson and Allura Grant weighing a major decision, walking away from their male run law firm to build a women centered practice of their own. They want a space where female clients feel understood and protected. Dina Standish, the only woman partner at their current firm, quietly supports their plan and advises them to take one staff member they trust. Liberty and Allura approach Emerald Green, a sharp and resourceful investigator, inviting her to join their new venture. The move sets off a chain reaction at the old firm. Carrington Lane, another attorney, is livid that she wasn't included in their plans. When she learns Dina secretly helped them, Carrington erupts in anger and swears that Liberty and Allura will pay for abandoning her. A decade later, the trio's leap of faith has paid off. Allura, Liberty, and Emerald now run a successful, well-respected law firm known for championing women's rights. Allura's personal life appears equally polished. She is married to Chase, a younger and famous football star, who surprises her with a sparkling diamond ring to celebrate their anniversary. The following morning, Liberty and Emerald raise a toast to Allura's marriage and the firm's 10th year in business. They reminisce about cases that shaped their journey. Their nostalgic moment is abruptly cut short when a letter arrives from Carrington, a bitter message wishing them nothing but misfortune on their special day. As work resumes, Allura calls her assistant, Milan, into the meeting for their next case and promises to help her prep for the bar exam later. Meanwhile, Liberty and Emerald discuss their newest client, Grace Henry, a rising actress who entered a relationship with billionaire tech mogul Lionel Lee. Lionel convinced Grace to leave her job and sign a prenup that guarantees she gets nothing if they separate. Allura notices Grace isn't asking for financial compensation at all, which raises a red flag. When they sit down with Grace, she reveals Lionel introduced another woman, Emma, into their relationship, and Grace ended up falling in love with her. Now she's consumed with guilt and believes she ruined Lionel's life. The lawyers assure her that she deserves justice and support. Soon after, Liberty receives a frantic call from Sheila Baskin in New York. Sheila claims her billionaire husband, Theodore Baskin, is threatening her. Liberty quickly confirms that Theodore is the owner of a major cosmetics empire and immediately flies to New York. When she arrives, she pushes past security to enter the home. Theodore accuses Sheila of having an affair with a chef and insists the prenup bars her from receiving anything. Privately, Sheila breaks down and explains that she only cheated because Theodore emotionally withdrew from her long ago. She then shows Liberty her enormous jewelry collection, pieces Theodore gave her as apologies for every birthday and anniversary he missed. Liberty evaluates the collection and estimates its value at over $40 million. She reminds Sheila that since they married in California, the jewelry legally belongs to her. Back at the firm, Allura and Emerald continue to investigate Grace's situation. Emerald reveals she tailed Lionel and discovered he regularly visits a traditional spa owned by a woman named Devon. Devon also works as a dominatrix, and Emerald believes Lionel has been secretly involved with her for a long time, possibly even before Emma entered the picture. Meanwhile, in New York, Liberty helps Sheila pack up all the jewelry and prepares to leave the house. She confronts Theodore and informs him that California law gives Sheila full ownership of the gifts. Sheila apologizes for her affair, emphasizing she only strayed because her husband stopped caring about her needs. Later, Liberty reunites with Allura, and together they visit Devon to convince her to cooperate. Devon initially refuses, but Allura offers her $10 million, and Devon agrees, providing maligning evidence against Lionel. The next day, Lionel and his lawyers meet Grace and her team for settlement talks. His lawyers refuse to offer anything, citing the prenup, until Allura presents photos from Devon's spa exposing Lionel's affair, including a compromising image that could destroy his reputation. Liberty presses him to settle and sign over $210 million to Grace. Cornered, Lionel agrees. The women celebrate their victory as Grace thanks them for saving her life. That night, Chase confesses to Allura that he feels trapped in their marriage and wants a divorce. When she pleads with him, he admits he's seeing someone else and leaves. Later, Liberty and Emerald visit Allura to comfort her. Allura admits she always feared Chase would leave her for someone younger. Her friends tease her about her history of choosing shallow men. They decide to attend Sheila Baskin's upcoming jewelry auction in New York and relax in the hot tub to cheer Allura up. Meanwhile, Chase meets his new lover, who turns out to be Milan, Allura's assistant. Next, Emerald meets Liberty to share a shocking discovery. Chase hasn't just cheated on Allura once, he's been involved with several women. When they later meet Allura for lunch, she introduces Dina as the attorney who will represent her in the divorce. Dina advises Allura to lock down the city's strongest divorce lawyers so Chase can't hire them first. When Dina asks if she's reached out to Carrington, Allura reluctantly calls. Carrington answers with smug confidence, revealing she is already representing Chase. She taunts Allura and promises a brutal fight in court. Later, Allura, Liberty, and Emerald sit down with a new client, Deandra Barber, who explains her complicated divorce from Arthur. She sacrificed years to help build Arthur's 9 companies, only for him to transfer ownership to her during the divorce, except the businesses were already collapsing. With everything in her name, the lawyers warn she may be accused of tax crimes while Arthur walks free. Overwhelmed, Deandra steps out for some air, and moments later, the trio are horrified to see that she has jumped from the building. The following day, the group travels to New York with Dina for Sheila Baskin's jewelry auction. During the flight, Dina shares updates about Douglas's cancer and how she's been caring for him. The women talk about their relationships, and Emerald proudly mentions having triplets through a sperm donor. At the auction, Carrington suddenly appears, smirking at the group. She competes with Dina and Allura for a piece of jewelry, driving the bidding up from $25,000 to $500,000. Ultimately, Carrington wins, boasting afterward in the restroom. Dina calmly responds that she will see her again, this time in divorce court as Allura's defender. Later that night, Dina drinks alone until the auctioneer, Oliver, approaches and compliments her bidding strategy. His flirtation leads to a kiss, and he invites her to his room. Meanwhile, Liberty is on a date with Reggie, who unexpectedly proposes. Overwhelmed, Liberty rushes off. During the flight home, Liberty confesses she panicked because commitment scares her, even in her 40s. She admires Dina's devotion to Douglas, but Dina reveals she nearly cheated with Oliver. She promises to tell Douglas the truth. Emerald also confides that Chase had numerous affairs. Back home, Dina confesses everything to Douglas, and to her surprise, he forgives her. They reconnect and make love for the first time in years. The next morning, Liberty and Dina revisit Deandra's case, expressing frustration at how Arthur exploited his wife. Liberty admits most women around her, including Allura and Emerald, have endured terrible marriages, making her uncertain about trusting Reggie. Dina urges her to give him a real chance. Emerald then breaks the news that Chase's newest partner is Milan, Allura's own assistant. Allura remains composed, though deeply hurt. Emerald and Liberty encourage her to fight back, while Dina insists that facing her anger directly will help her heal. Dina also reveals she has a plan to bring justice for Deandra. Later, Liberty visits Reggie and explains why she left the ring behind. She confesses she's scared, but still wants a future with him. In a surprising turn, she proposes, and Reggie happily accepts. Back at home, Emerald celebrates when one of her sons gets a full scholarship to MIT. She and her boys share an emotional, proud moment. Meanwhile, Dina tracks down Arthur at a car auction. She threatens to expose his fraud and his role in Deandra's downfall unless he reinstates every employee he fired and transfers ownership back to Deandra's family. At the same time, Allura confronts Milan about the affair. Milan insists she simply fell for Chase's charm. Allura brushes it off until Milan reveals she is pregnant with his child. Next, we see Allura outlining her newest plan for revenge. She wants a series of cosmetic treatments to reverse the clock and stun Chase with how youthful she looks. Dina, Emerald, and Liberty listen as Emerald admits that her own form of self-care is escaping for massages and time alone to recharge. Liberty chimes in, sharing that she swears by lymphatic drainage massages to keep her energy balanced. Dina, however, stresses that the healthiest path is embracing age rather than fighting it. She talks about how women are taught to fear getting older, even though no procedure can truly freeze time. Emerald gently adds that every woman deserves the freedom to choose what makes her feel confident. The group eventually agrees that happiness, not perfection, is what matters. Their next case arrives in the form of Leanne, who recounts meeting her husband, pop sensation Tommy, backstage after one of his concerts. Their whirlwind romance quickly soured as Tommy's infidelity escalated. Leanne reveals that he began criticizing her appearance, eventually pressuring her into plastic surgeries with a disreputable, unlicensed doctor. Liberty, Emerald, and Allura are horrified, especially when they learn he signed off on additional procedures she never agreed to. While the lawyers go over the details, Emerald suddenly freezes at something she sees on her phone. She pulls Dina aside before revealing the news to Allura. Chase has been seen with Maria Kouladis, a trans woman and former sex worker. Allura, already emotionally raw, breaks down as she realizes how deeply Chase's betrayals have cut her. Elsewhere, Douglas gets a devastating update. His cancer has spread to his bones and liver. The doctor encourages him to be honest with Dina about how little time he may have left. Allura soon takes Milan to get tested for STDs, staying outwardly calm though clearly hurting inside. Milan appreciates the support, but Allura keeps a polite emotional distance. Later, Tommy arrives with his attorney, Damien. Emerald reveals that she discovered a hidden Dubai account stuffed with Tommy's real earnings. Liberty and Allura confront him, presenting records showing he forced Leanne into surgeries and approved additional alterations without her consent. Tommy is left speechless as Damien scrambles. Afterward, Allura tells Dina that both she and Milan tested negative. Dina then mentions she's meeting Carrington alone, knowing Carrington will only use personal attacks to rattle Allura. During the tense meeting, Carrington demands Chase receive $1 million a month. Dina responds by bringing up the affair with Maria. Carrington laughs it off, then cruelly taunts that Chase will never release the frozen embryos and that Allura will never be a mother. Dina fires back, calling Carrington pathetic for weaponizing another woman's grief. Meanwhile, Chase secretly meets Maria. She admits Allura contacted her but says she won't betray him. Maria tells Chase she wants to be acknowledged publicly, not for money, but so that women like her see someone standing beside a famous athlete. Being seen with him could give her community strength. The following morning, the firm learns Leanne has snapped. After catching Tommy with a younger woman, she threw acid on his face. The trio reflects on how Leanne's buried rage erupted violently, a warning of what happens when pain is ignored too long. Liberty and Emerald gently remind Allura to face her emotions before they consume her as well. Later, Allura visits Milan and helps her arrange the baby's nursery. Milan says she intends to raise the child alone. Allura admits she dreamed of having 2 children someday, dreams that now feel impossible. Then, a dangerous idea forms. Allura forges Chase's signature on the embryo release documents and lies to the fertility doctor that Chase has approved the transplant. The episode closes with her on the procedure table, the doctor asking her to think happy thoughts. As the embryo transfer begins, Allura clings to the memory of her wedding vows, imagining a future she's determined to reclaim. Meanwhile, Emerald juggles the usual morning chaos at home, her triplet sons arguing, shouting, and calling for her all at once. Despite the noise, she admits she feels fulfilled living on her own. But in office, Allura disagrees, insisting Emerald shouldn't shut the door on romance forever. Even Liberty backs her up, gently encouraging Emerald to give love another chance. When Emerald mentions she's been invited to a singles mixer over the weekend, Allura immediately drags her out shopping for something glamorous. At the party, Emerald gets one more pep talk from her friend Elise before stepping inside. Almost immediately, a man across the room begins watching her. He approaches, buys her a drink, and soon they're on the dance floor. But halfway through their dance, Emerald's vision blurs and the room twists around her. She wakes the next morning, still wearing last night's clothes, terrified as memories of being assaulted flash back. She calls 911, but at the hospital, the doctor says they cannot medically confirm rape. Shaken, Emerald calls Allura, pretending she only ruined the gift Allura bought her, but Allura instantly hears the pain in her voice. Moments later, Allura, Liberty, and Dina rush to the hospital. Tests show GHB and benzodiazepines in Emerald's bloodstream. The combination was strong enough to kill her. She breaks down, saying she wants to erase the entire night from her mind. Soon after, Allura and Emerald take on a new client, Cheryl Goodfader, who is fighting to keep her ex-husband Matty away from her businesses. Matty has, of course, retained Carrington as his attorney. Cheryl explains that Matty suddenly became obsessed with having children, even though she didn't want them, which slowly pushed their marriage apart. During a tense settlement meeting, Carrington aggressively pushes for spousal support and then coldly reveals that Cheryl once terminated a pregnancy without telling Matty. As the conversation turns vicious, Emerald quietly excuses herself, still raw from her own trauma. Later, Emerald, Dina, and Allura work with Elise to piece together clues about Emerald's attacker. They manage to identify him but struggle to pinpoint his exact location. Then Emerald receives a chilling anonymous text containing a photo of her tied up and unconscious. Using details in the image, Allura and Dina trace the man's name and address. Dina realizes the attacker, Conrad Walton's son, targeted Emerald to get revenge on Dina for something in the past. She warns that he won't stop until he gets what he wants, but the police say they don't yet have enough evidence to make an arrest. Emerald decides to sit her sons down for dinner and tells them the truth about what happened. The boys want to hunt the man down immediately, but instead wrap their arms around their mother, promising to protect her however she needs. Meanwhile, Carrington informs Allura and Cheryl that Matty has dropped his claim to Cheryl's assets because his new girlfriend is pregnant and he wants a clean break. During lunch that same day, Emerald's former partner Ray stops by to share news. Emerald's attacker has been found dead, an apparent suicide, though detectives are not ruling out homicide. Emerald lashes out at Dina in her panic, then spirals further, wondering if her own sons took revenge. But when she learns they were nowhere near the scene, a more frightening question settles over her. If Conrad Walton didn't kill himself, and her sons didn't kill him, then who did? Next, we briefly step into Car's private world. She's behind the wheel, driving her teenage daughter Ami to school on her birthday. Their bond is strained, and Car quietly watches as Ami is brushed off by classmates. Even the birthday cupcakes stay untouched in the back seat, as Ami chooses not to hand them out to people she clearly doesn't consider real friends. Back at the office, Allura and the rest of the team sit down with Juliana Morse to discuss her decision to separate from her husband, who's battling Alzheimer's. Her daughter, who has legal guardianship over her father, refuses to renegotiate the strict terms in her parents' prenup. The team questions Juliana about why she wants a formal divorce instead of simply moving on with her life. But Juliana explains that staying married, even in name only, keeps her feeling trapped. She wants emotional and legal freedom. As everyone reviews the details of the case, Carrington's growing connection with Chase becomes obvious. In the middle of work discussions, Allura and the others check on Emerald, but she insists she's fine and prefers not to dwell on the traumatic events still hanging over her. The team decides the best route is to persuade Juliana and her daughter to reach a mutual understanding if they want the case to be wrapped up quickly. Carr then meets with her client, Willow Fallow, one of the few people who can actually intimidate her. Willow is being sued by Eric Duncan for fraud, malice, defamation, invasion of privacy, and damage to his reputation. During their meeting, Carr's phone flashes a family photo, unexpectedly hitting her emotions and bringing her to tears. Willow mocks her for crying, pushing Carr over the edge. Carr abruptly quits as Willow's attorney, which catches the attention of Eric's lawyer, Alberta Dome. Alberta joins Carr outside, gently probes into what's going on with her, and Carr vaguely responds, only mentioning that Ami's father used to be a good friend. Before leaving, Alberta hands Carr her business card. Meanwhile, Liberty goes out to dinner with Reggie, and he surprises her by presenting prenup paperwork. Although she's always spoken confidently in the office about signing prenups, her enthusiasm fades when she's personally faced with one. On the other side of town, Carr visits Chase at his home. They share wine and talk about his divorce case involving Allura. but their natural chemistry takes over. The flirting escalates, especially when Chase steps into his outdoor shower and Carr ends up washing his hair. The romantic tension builds, and Chase finally leans in to kiss her. Carr stops it before the moment becomes something more. But the attraction between them is undeniable. After drinking too much wine, Carr gets in her car and drives home, drifting across lanes as she loudly sings along to Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17. A police officer pulls her over, immediately noticing how intoxicated she is. Carr completely fails the field sobriety test and is arrested for DUI. When she's bailed out the next morning, it's revealed that she called Alberta to represent her. Next, Carr puts the final touches on Chase's preparation for mediation, determined to weaponize emotion in their favor. She even presses a handkerchief dusted with wasabi under his eyes, so he'll tear up on command. As soon as the session starts, barely a few minutes in, Chase discreetly sends Allura a text that reads, "You look hot." Allura ignores his message, his gaze, and every attempt he makes to unsettle her. Emerald slips into the meeting late and discreetly hands Dina a packet of documents to keep on standby. Dina suggests that Allura and Chase have an honest conversation before the actual mediation begins. Carr insists Chase should speak first, sticking to the cry if possible strategy, and he delivers an overly romanticized account of the early days of their relationship. The moment he finishes, Allura excuses herself and rushes to the restroom in tears. Dina follows, ready to comfort her, but Allura reveals the real reason for her distress. She just got her period. The embryos didn't survive the implantation. The revelation horrifies Dina, who immediately realizes Allura has technically breached the embryo contract. They agree they must keep this from Carr for now, at least until they can figure out how to prevent the situation from turning into a legal disaster. When Allura returns to give her mediation statement, she chooses a completely different emotional tone, direct, raw, and vulnerable. Her words hit Chase harder than anything Carr could have staged. He ends up crying without the wasabi's help. Alberta and Carr scramble to steady him afterward. Alberta warns they need to dismantle the prenup quietly and without officially challenging it, threading a very thin needle. Once discussions resume, Alberta targets a scholarship program Allura funds in her late father's memory. She pushes until Allura finally admits the truth. When she was 14, her mother sent her to a brutal reform school in Vermont. It was her father who pulled her out, and the trauma of discovering what she endured drove him into alcoholism. When Alberta pressures her further, Allura reveals she later bought that same reform school just to shut it down. The property isn't listed anywhere in her asset disclosures. Alberta calls it a hidden asset, the leverage she needs to attack the prenup. Allura's team counters that a derelict building shouldn't affect the divorce terms. The judge, frustrated with Alberta's tactics but unsettled by Allura's secret, suggests they continue mediation, imagining the prenup didn't exist at all. This lands as a major victory for Chase's side. Emerald nudges Dina to use what she uncovered about Carr, but Dina refuses. She doesn't want to win by leaning on illegally obtained footage, nor hurt someone she believes she failed in the past. As talks resume, the embryos are brought up. Chase's team offers to give them to Allura. She refuses to play along and instead drops the truth herself. Allura ignores Dina's advice and announces that the embryos no longer exist because she used them recently, and they failed. Carr immediately argues they should escalate with lawsuits, but Chase stops her cold. He sides with Allura, saying he wants the divorce concluded cleanly and refuses to let Carr or Alberta drag it out. It becomes clear Allura predicted he would respond exactly this way. Before the mediation continues, Dina is called to Doug's hospice bedside, leaving Emerald in charge of the strategy. Allura gives Emerald full permission to run things her own way, and Emerald wastes no time. She presents evidence suggesting Chase deliberately threw football games to settle gambling debts, backed up by his own emails. The judge rejects the use of this evidence, so Emerald moves straight to Plan B. She plays the video of Carr's DUI arrest, the one where Carr drunkenly confesses she slept with Chase. Carr violently lunges across the table, trying to rip the tablet out of Emerald's hands, and ends up standing on the table in a full meltdown. She screams, denies sleeping with Chase, and hurls cruel accusations toward Allura. Humiliated, Carr storms out as everyone sits in stunned silence. Emerald finds her afterward and speaks to her privately, urging her to settle rather than attack the firm. She appeals to her as a mother who understands how much Carr wants to be better for Ami. Allura joins them and admits she regrets not bringing Carr with them when they rebuilt the firm. Shockingly, Carr breaks and pulls Allura into a hug, crying even as she tries to pretend it's nothing. She ultimately agrees to a 50-50 division of assets for Allura and Chase, the exact deal Allura wanted from the start. Later that evening, Chase waits for Allura at the office. They greet each other with a handshake, but the quiet moment evolves into a bittersweet goodbye kiss. Meanwhile, Dina returns home and lies beside Doug as he takes his final breaths. She rests her hand on his chest and feels his heart stop. Exhausted and half asleep, she murmurs that he needs a manicure before drifting off again, refusing to acknowledge the finality of his death. The following morning, Liberty meets Allura and Emerald at the firm to talk about Dina. Liberty notes that Dina ignored her call the previous night, unlike with the other two. Allura and Emerald reassure her that she's reading too much into it. Liberty is upset that she missed Chase and Allura's divorce session, but they remind her that Carrington's interference made rescheduling impossible. Later, Liberty visits Dina's home only to find Carrington already there. The two immediately clash, with Liberty accusing Carr of trying to manipulate Dina to earn a place at the firm. The housekeeper tries to usher them out, but they both head inside anyway, where they find Dina quietly making herself breakfast. When Dina retreats to her room, Liberty and Carr follow, and freeze when they see Doug's body still lying in the bed. Dina calmly explains that he passed recently and insists she's perfectly fine. Liberty gently tries to convince her that this isn't healthy, but Carrington steps in with a story about grieving her childhood cat. Dina responds emotionally, leaving Liberty feeling dismissed. She walks out, telling Dina she'll wait in the car. That evening, Allura meets Chase at a bar to hand him the finalized divorce papers. Chase expresses sympathy about Doug, and Allura admits she's trying not to live in resentment. She forgives him, but clarifies she wants only friendship going forward. She also gives him a written list of women he hurt in the past and urges him to apologize to them. The next day, Liberty checks on Dina again and is shocked again to see Carrington back at the house. Their bickering resumes until Liberty storms out. Meanwhile, Chase begins visiting the women on Allura's list, attempting to apologize. Most of the encounters go poorly. He later asks Allura for help reaching Milan, who refuses to take his calls. Emerald stops by Dina's home and discovers Carrington has arranged an informal memorial for Doug, even though his body is still in the bedroom. Emerald regrets encouraging Dina to hold on and finds her looking through old photographs. She gently urges her to plan the funeral, but Dina snaps, insisting she'll move at her own pace. Liberty prepares bagpipes for Doug's farewell ceremony, which only heightens Dina's distress. Carrington quietly enjoys Liberty's embarrassment. Meanwhile, Allura convinces Milan to meet Chase at the office. The conversation quickly devolves, leading Milan to throw objects at him in fury. Frustrated, Chase threatens legal action regarding custody of their unborn child. That night, Allura visits Dina and finally learns why she refuses to release Doug's remains. Soon, all four women gather and help Dina understand she can honor Doug without keeping his body close. Their support finally reaches her, and she agrees to let him go. Afterward, the group reflects on their own complicated love lives. Allura admits Chase is the great love of her life, but she's afraid of being hurt again. Yet she still goes to his house that night, and they sleep together. The next morning, they discuss his argument with Milan. Chase insists he has a right to be part of his child's life, even if Milan wants him gone. He then asks Allura if they can try again. Meanwhile, Detective Morrow appears unannounced at the firm. She reveals a disturbing new detail about Walton's death. It wasn't suicide. Walton was murdered, and the condition of his body makes Emerald an immediate suspect. To make matters worse, Liberty's alibi doesn't check out because her phone was on airplane mode during the time she was supposed to be at home. Not long after, the The women head to London for a fashion show. The private jet, spa treatments, and front row seats give them a rare, quiet moment together. During those moments, Dina and Emerald try to help Liberty see Carr differently, hoping she'll consider meeting Carr again as a potential fourth partner. Liberty refuses, until Dina finally tells her the truth about Carr's past. Carr discovered her father's body after he died by suicide. Meanwhile, Carr spends the evening with her ex-husband. He challenges her to get close to Chase again, not as his attorney, but romantically. Carr takes the dare without hesitation, especially when it involves unsettling Allura. At the same time, Chase is trying to convince Allura he still wants her. Allura needs proof of his commitment, something Chase struggles to offer. It doesn't take long for Carr to pull him back into an affair despite his attendance at sex addict support meetings. But Chase ruins everything when he accidentally tells Allura he's sleeping with Carr and criticizes Allura for being controlling. Later, when he's with Carr, he slips and calls her Allura. A moment Carr brushes aside. Instead, she leans into the comparison, even adjusting herself to resemble Allura. Carr then arrives at the firm dressed like Allura to attend the partner interview. Despite the theatrics, she easily wins the case she was assigned. Her preparation and strategy are flawless. Before leaving, she pointedly reminds Allura that she has plans with Chase, and when questioned why she's pushing to be invited into the firm, Carr claims Allura's only true love is the firm itself. But after putting herself out there emotionally, showing Chase her scars and encouraging him to understand the root of his addiction, Carr faces a familiar outcome. Chase ends things. Her vulnerability backfires, giving him clarity instead of connection. Next, it becomes clear that Carr never fully believed in the sisterhood she pretended to embrace. Whatever hope she briefly had disappears when Chase walks away. She recommits to her original plan: infiltrate the firm, then destroy it from the inside. Next, we see Carr in a therapy session, admitting she feels homicidal. She dismisses her therapist soon after, but not before taking inspiration from something the therapist says: approach Liberty as a friend, not an enemy. Carr gifts Liberty a rare Princess Diana plate, an item nearly impossible to find. Liberty is instantly touched. Carr then gives her wedding advice, encouraging her to pick bridesmaid dresses that reflect her own taste rather than Allura's. The two connect over feeling like outsiders. But when Liberty shows the dresses to her friends, they're stunned. The gowns are outdated and unflattering, and the women assume Liberty is joking. Already feeling misunderstood, Liberty retreats. While she's away, the others discover something crucial. Liberty's fiancé, Reg, has been hiding serious financial issues. He pushed for a prenup not to protect himself, but to protect her from his problems. Meanwhile, Liberty seeks Carr out again for comfort. Carr tells her that Allura does love her, but her insecurities make her want everyone around her to become a version of her. Carr then visits Dina for a planned lunch, but Dina doesn't remember the arrangement. Carr learns that Dina was one of the two partners who voted against her. In a tense conversation, Dina finally admits she sees through Carr's behavior and no longer believes she can be fixed. Carr responds by throwing wine in Dina's face and leaving. Immediately after, Carr goes to Allura with alarming text messages supposedly sent by Dina. They imply Dina is losing her grip on reality, regretting her legal career, clinging to religion, and possibly suicidal. Allura is disturbed, though unsure what to believe. At the same time, Liberty calls off her wedding. She isn't angry about Reg's financial issues. She's hurt that he didn't trust her enough to share the burden. As the episode reaches its peak, the group confronts Dina. Carr is present as well, surprising Dina completely. Carr has collected enough manipulated evidence to paint Dina as unstable. Dina breaks down under the pressure, finally speaking openly about her grief over losing Doug. But Carr delivers another blow when she brings in Dina's housekeeper, who claims Dina choked her. When Carr mentions the wine incident, Dina insists Carr threw the drink, not her, but no one believes her. Dina becomes overwhelmed and for a moment can't even remember events clearly. That hesitation is all Detective Morrow needs. In the episode's final moments, Dina is arrested for Walton's murder. As Dina is taken away, Carr silently crosses out Dina's name in her notebook, marking another step in her calculated plan.